Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Wow Ergonomics, which means it's a Friday.
It is.
And and it feels like a Friday today because it's the end of the week. That's generally how you can tell. How's your week been?
Very good, thank you for asking. And how about you? Any music podcasts this week?
Just the one. Just the one. And a little bit different as well this week. I interviewed somebody who's a score writer for film.
Okay,
that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
So she's a pianist. She writes really beautiful pieces, but it's a slightly different process, obviously, than writing pop music, because you have to write atmospherically for what's going on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, but interesting, hey?
So I wonder how that works. Do they see the film and then compose the piece of music? In terms of, do they see every scene, or do they then go with what they think it will be? It's quite a difficult process, I guess.
Quite often. I mean, what she was explaining, she would she would see the footage,
right?
She'd see the pieces on the screen, and actually probably start as she's watching it, going,
tickling the ivories,
tinkling the ivories, and going, a little bit of that there, and then would probably just like record against the video as she's doing it, capture all of that together, and then go back and then embellish.
Because I guess that's got to be quite difficult, because a lot of scenes often from films can get cut. So she could have been shown a bit of work to put something to, and then that scene doesn't make it. So I guess it's quite difficult, a bit of back and forward on that, quite a bit, I guess.
Yeah, more of that, isn't it? Because, as you say, once the film's actually then finalised and all of the scenes that are going to be there are decided, then you may have to then go back and then rewrite certain bits of it and whatever.
That great, and just saying, that great bit of work you did for us. Can you just chuck it in the bin and start again?
Yeah. Hey, but it's all, all exists at the end of the day, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does. Of course it does.
It's no different from a lot of creative processes. I write stuff for people, and sometimes, I mean, even like when I produce like short videos out of long videos, there's a whole load of mini videos that never get seen. There's a whole load of work that just never makes it out the door to the end of the.
Is it what do they say, on the director's floor or something like that? Isn't it?
Director's cut is called the
director's cut. That's it. Yeah.
There we go. We've got a great guest today.
We have.
Hope you're looking forward to this. We thought we'd bring the luck of the Irish with us today, and here she is to give us some of the 4-leaf clover that we need on our Friday. Hello.
That's a lovely introduction. Thank you so much. Hi, Graham. Hi, Stephen. How are you?
Hello. And it's welcome back, because I think you were on about 3 or 4 years ago, weren't you? Or I think you first joined us on the show. It is a while ago. In fact, Graham, I'm sure, have done his research, will tell us the exact date that Niamh was previously on with us.
No,
he hasn't.
I haven't done my research to that extent, but I know. Yeah, it was about 3.5 years ago that you were last on. Tell us what's been going on with you since you last came on here. What's changed?
What's changed? I am more and more back to being in person. Still doing a lot of virtual assessments because they're very important, but a lot more back face to face with people, which is absolutely brilliant, because you just get much more info, get much more feel for what the person does and how they do it, and the little things that you might pick up that is kind of hard to pick up on Teams. So a lot more in person. I'm now usually Fridays at home doing virtuals, and the rest of the week on the road.
Wow. How many miles are you doing?
Oh, I don't know. I do have to record it, obviously, for mileage, but I'm not. I could be, like, I'm based in the northeast. I could be down in the south. I could be up in the northwest. Because Ireland's quite small. We're lucky in one sense. We're quite small, so we can cover most places. Realistically, can cover most places.
Let's get onto this quickly, because it's a fascinating topic for me, having been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt. What's the furthest you've ever been to an assessment?
4 hours away.
4 hours.
And that was actually probably the furthest possible point I probably can get from here and still be in the country. So it was a 4 hour Actually, about 4 or 15 minutes drive to get to a job.
It's quite a way, isn't it? People don't realise this.
Yeah. Now, I did take advantage. I won't lie. I did stay overnight. I didn't get back in the car and drive home the next day. I actually made a bit of a day because I was going into Tralee down in Kerry, and it's such a lovely part of the country. I was like, have to make a little more of this now if I'm going this far. But that's be the furthest. Yeah.
Wow. What about you, Stephen? What's kind of like the furthest you have to go?
Oh, I mean, I'm very fortunate. I'm right in the middle of the country, so not everywhere's usually within about sort of 3 hours for me. I mean, obviously, when I go to the Netherlands, to head office, it's probably that far. But yeah, I mean, where am I? Scotland, north of Scotland, I'd say. Aberdeen's probably as far as I've been, something like that, or maybe sort of way past yours, Graham, and carrying on down to Cornwall. So probably the extremities, the northern and the southwestern extremities, probably for me.
Wow.
Have you got one? Because from your time assessing, have you got something where you got on a boat or a plane or something like that?
Yeah, I used to have to go over to Isle of Man on a regular basis for one client, which was quite expensive and very time consuming. I think the furthest I've ever gone in one day is 8.5 hours.
Oof.
It's a long day.
It's an awful long day. And I think I've told this story before now. I actually got called by one assessment company who shall remain nameless on one occasion. And I was in Fishguard. Now, you know where Fishguard is because it's a hop and a skip from Fishguard over to Ireland.
Yeah.
Okay. It's the far west coast.
West of Wales, isn't it? Right in the southwest
Wales.
corner of Wales. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And they phoned me and they said, is there any chance you can fit in another assessment this afternoon? And I said, where's that then? And they said, Maidstone. having sent me to Fishguard to do this assessment. And I went, no. And they said, why not? And I said, have you got a map?
How's your maths? There aren't that many hours in the day.
And they weren't going to send a helicopter for you, know?
Literally, there's Fishguard and there's Maidstone. They literally require you to travel the entire width of the country to get to it. And I said, I can do it tomorrow. So I did. I travelled overnight to Maidstone and did it in the next morning, but it was there was no way that it was happening that day. But I don't think we've been talking about this a little bit recently, Niamh, which is that people don't realise the rigors that people go through when they're doing ergonomics, etc., to help people with bad backs and musculoskeletal issues all around the country and give themselves bad backs and musculoskeletal issues, either delivering and lifting chairs or equipment or just sitting for 8 hours at a time in a car. It's not a profession you should go into if you want to look after yourself particularly, but it's great if you want to look after other people.
We are the worst, I think, sometimes at following our own advice. By far. And I work with a lot of drivers, people who are on the road for a living. And the advice I give them, sometimes I have to stop and remind myself, let's just pull over for a few minutes. Let's go grab a coffee and walk around for a few minutes because you've been in the car for a little bit too long. Because especially coming home, you kind of just want to get home. You need to stop, but you kind of just want to go home.
I do want to talk about that very briefly before we get onto our main topic of conversation today. I used to do vehicle assessments. In fact, I used to train other assessors on vehicle assessments. What is the one biggest thing that you find drivers end up with? Because for me, it was sciatica.
Yep.
Over
Lower back
and
and
over
hips,
again.
over and over. And it's all because of the design of the seats. In the lower spec cars, as I'm sure you've obviously know, there's a massive difference in the adjustments of a car as you start to go up the spec. So most people, especially with company vehicles, will end up with something on the lower mid-range, and it just does not have the level of adjustment needed to get a good hip and knee and leg position. So they end up with the knee much, much higher than the hip for the whole time they're in the car. And that just causes, sciatic symptoms, sore backs, sore hips. And trying to fix that, obviously we can add wedge cushions and do what you can. But realistically speaking, it just comes down to the level of adjustment in the seat, and it's just not always there. And the lumbar support in the backrest as well. Sometimes it's there, but it's either on or it's off, but it doesn't go up and down. So I find tall drivers are usually the ones that suffer the most, because when you get the seat to the right height, if you can, for the hip and the knee, their heads are hitting off the roof and they can't see.
Yep. I mean, that's one of the things that we used to measure was that height there.
Yeah.
Right. The height between the top of the head and where the car is. And just as a gauge, if you can't get your hand in there between your head and the top of the car, if you're listening to this on the M25, 2 hands on the steering wheel.
Yeah. Not above your head.
Right? Not above your head. You can see people stopping to do it. Like, oh! But if you can't get your hand in there, then what you've got to consider is what's going to happen if you had an impact. Right? You've got to consider that. If there's nothing, literally, if your head is touching the top of the car, what would happen if that car had impact? Right? You're not surviving that at all, because, although like cars do have, protection up there, it ain't gonna, if there's nothing there, you're not going to get anything. But also your sitting position is going to be bad. And with a lot of taller drivers, they just need to go to a higher sitting position car. They either, if they can, maybe like a 4x4, or just dare I say it, some people I used to have to say, look, you are going to need to move to something like more like a people carrier.
I know, and they hate to hear that.
And they're like, but I like my sports car. Yeah, but you don't fit your sports car.
Do you know what? I got a story, personal experience, I should say, exactly matches up with what Niamh said there. So about 15 years ago, where I used to work previously, they got me a very nice German car, but right on the bottom end of the spec. And the problem was the seat adjustment was so limited that within 3 months I had to give it back because I couldn't get the seat in. I was driving with almost permanent pain, sort of hip down to knee, because you couldn't do that. And it's say personal experience exactly ties up with what you're saying there. If you're doing longer journeys, that necessity for that adjustability is absolutely imperative. So yeah, I sort of feel the pain and felt the pain back then, and it just had to go, give it back. I just cannot get on with this car.
Yep. I used to have to change car for them on a regular basis. It's very expensive adjustment.
Well, I have definitely on more than one occasion had to go back and say, I cannot adjust this car and this person to work together.
Yep.
And the other issue with the head clearance, aside from the safety point, is your line of sight. If somebody's tall and you get them, when they look straight ahead, they're just looking at the end of the roof. They're actually not looking out the window at all. So they're kind of ducking down, trying to see.
A lot of car windscreens now actually have a tinted bit towards the top, which so you're literally looking out at nothing, which is absolutely mad. And then all that will happen is, so that they can see, is they're like slouch and they end up like that.
Yeah, it is something I warn companies when we're doing the vehicle ones. I'm kind of go, look, I'll do what I can, but just going to give you a heads up. They have to come back and say the vehicle's not suitable, because there's only so much you can do with the interior of the vehicle, because it's set really. So it's always a little heads up I kind of give them, go, look, I'll do my best and I'll do what I can. But if they come back to me and say, oh, actually, we've got this driver and he's 6'5", I kind of go, oh God, what's he driving? Oh no. And already you're kind of look at what else might work for him.
Yeah, it was
advice. How many companies are factoring that in when they choose a car? Probably
I was just going to say,
how many people? A bit like when they buy chairs nowadays, they're looking at the price. Are they going with a car? Well, actually, we'll go with that one because it's cheaper with that one, and then it doesn't fit, and then it causes a problem, and you're tied into a lease, which ties back exactly to an office chair, which is exactly the same sort of problem. You go and get the chair based on the price, but actually, it's not fit for purpose for that individual.
My advice, which went in every single report where it was a change of vehicle, etc., and companies need to think about this, is my advice to you would be, before you rent the car, rent hire the car, you can hire a vehicle of that type for a period, for a week or whatever. Hire the vehicle and let that person in that week make sure that they drive that car in every type of environment that they're going to drive it in.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a rural area, but they're going to be doing rural to urban, etc., make sure that they do some of that within that period, because, you know, if you're moving between sort of like long drives where you don't need to have your foot on the clutch all of the time, and then you're going into sort of like doing a lot of in town clutch every 5 minutes. Well, that's quite often where the sciatica comes from, especially when the pedals are offset, which they are in some vehicles. Then that's, you know, you need to know where it might be problematic. So do the homework, hire it first. You can then give it back. It might cost you a bit more, but you're going to be able to give that car back at the end of the week. You'll know whether it's suitable or not.
Yeah, and save a lot of hassle in the long run.
Very, very sensible. Anyway, main topic of conversation today. I thought we'd bring you in for a big topic. Woohoo! So the big topic is it's getting tough out there. There's a lot of people we see every single day. I scroll through like news reels and whatever. We're seeing like more places shutting, businesses shutting, retail shutting. You know, more redundancies on the horizon and whatever, which makes it very difficult. And I know, like, it's almost the temptation would be to this sort of service stuff that is done on the ergonomic side of things is almost like, well, we ought to cut that. But let's do the argument today for why actually, if you are having to make those redundancies, if you are needing to reduce numbers of people within your business and whatever, even more reason for you to actually look after them properly. Can we start the argument? Who wants to take that first start?
I'll start. I don't mind. I'm happy to start this one, because I actually happen to know quite a few people who are working on a personal level, who are working for companies that are going through periods of restructuring, and there's talks of redundancies, and this is happening in January, this is going to happen. And one of the biggest things that creates, apart from, you know, I suppose that you're talking about, they're looking to see where they can make cuts among their workers. It's a little loss of psychological safety. People are more, they don't know if they're next. They don't know what the future holds. They're starting to feel a little bit nervous. They're starting to feel a little bit stressed. And as we all know, that in itself can have a knock-on effect in how they feel when they're working physically. So there's a whole, you know yourself, the big cycle around stress and pain and how they tie into each other. So if you have an environment where things are uncertain and people are a little bit nervous, well, they're going to be more stressed. They're not going to be as focused. They're going to be much more easily distracted. And that's going to have an impact then on the business, who is trying to be as profitable as possible with people who are maybe not feeling 100%, and therefore they're not performing 100% because of the slight environment change that's come in.
No,
Definitely.
100%. What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I'm just thinking as well, almost beyond the sort of the phase of those sort of redundancies happening. Actually, you're potentially asking fewer people to do the job of more. So let's say, for example, you might be asking 10 people to do the work of 15. Actually, it's a really good time to go and invest in an assessment, in equipment, because those people need to be absolutely at their top performance in terms of productivity. So actually, the argument would be, if you're looking to have fewer people, what you need is those people to be more productive. So you need to make the environment, that sort of 8 cubic meters which they sit in, as productive, as supportive as possible. So yeah, I think it's, as you say, you're trying to reduce one thing, but actually it's a good time to invest in the other.
No, absolutely. And what does that actually look like for a lot of companies? I know we kind of cover old ground a lot of the time here, but what does it actually look like in terms of supporting, or would you say the bare sort of minimum in terms of supporting people from a sort of ergonomic perspective in the workplace?
I'll jump in there, Stephen. Is that all right? I don't want to talk.
Yeah, of course. No, you go for it.
I think on a very, very basic level, you're talking about bringing somebody in, like myself and yourselves, to do workshops with the staff, to do your one-on-one basic DSE assessments, nothing crazy, just to make sure that everything is set up properly for them. they have what they need, they're using it properly. And I find even the basic DSE assessments, people feel so seen by the company because someone like ourselves has gone in and we're giving them the 15, the 20, the 30 minutes of our time to make sure that they're comfortable, they're working properly, and also to give space for whatever issues they might be having. So yes, they might be feeling a little bit tired in the shoulders. The back might be feeling a little bit sore. We are giving them time to air that. We're making records, we're making changes, we're making recommendations, but we're not talking big full-scale ergonomic assessments. These are just your basic DSE assessments. But a lot of the feedback I get from people is, it's so nice to have someone to come in and do that, make sure that they're set up properly, make sure they have what they need, and it gives the feeling that the company cares. Yes, the company is going through a tough time. Yes, they're making changes, but they still care about me, and they want me to be well, and they want me to be comfortable and safe. So I think it, from a whole range of levels, it's so beneficial from obviously a productivity point of view, reduce absences, comfort and loyalty, retention, all these things. A small 15, 20-minute DSE assessment, a half an hour workshop here and there can do so much for keeping the staff that you actually want to keep, keeping them healthy and productive.
Right, now I'm going to ask a question for Stephen.
Okay.
Right? I'm going to ask a question for Stephen that will hopefully help Stephen. Right?
Okay.
Are you finding, alongside when you do these assessments at the moment, given the kind of current economic situation, are you finding that companies are saying, oh yeah, but okay, when you make the recommendations, can you go cheaper in terms of the level of the products and whatever that you're recommending? Or are they willing to spend extra because they want it to work? And double whammy this one. So if they are saying, oh, I want to go cheap on this, what arguments can you use in order to say, actually, there's a reason why you shouldn't necessarily go there? And is that partly to do with sort of education and making sure people can actually use this stuff properly?
That was a long question, wasn't it?
Was a long question.
Don't repeat it. I mean, my experience, and whether Niamh's seeing the same, is though actually I'm seeing more customers and more companies trying to invest in something that's a little bit better. I do see almost a pushback against the online retailers where people are offering something a little bit cheap and cheerful. So I think people are now getting more experience of that. Whilst there is a purpose and a place for it, I think when it comes to well-being ergonomics of their staff, I think they're seeing actually we need to go invest in something a little bit better. I also think that ties in, and I think sustainability is starting to play a part in that as well. I think people and companies are recognizing that we can go and get something a little bit cheaper, but the likelihood is it may only last 6, 9, 12 months. Actually, do we go and get something a little bit better that's going to last us 3, 4, 5 years? So I think I'm seeing more of that where companies are sort of looking at the whole picture and sort of moving away from that, let's call it cheap and cheerful. I'm not saying it's not functional. I'm not saying there's not a place for it, but I think that might be more from a personal home use. I think from a work use, people are wanting something a little bit better, and it's tying into staff well-being, but sustainability is really coming into it, as well as, you know, we've spoken about neurodiversity starting to come into a lot of the assessments. But the more and more people I speak to now are talking about circularity on product. So, you know, it is difficult if we just look tightly at the world of workplace ergonomics and accessories. A lot of those products are electronic, so it is difficult to sort of truly make them fully circular, as it were. But if you can provide a better product that lasts longer, it's better than a product that we've had to go and buy 4 or 5. So I think those two factors are coming in, Graham. And for me now is that yes, companies want better equipment, but they're also thinking about circularity, keeping their staff a bit more long term than, and we certainly saw it during COVID where it was very short term. What can I get my hands on? I need 150 of these, need 200 of them, and all sorts of cheap stuff was sort of flooding the market. And I think we had someone on a couple of shows ago, and what they were saying, or maybe in a conversation I had with someone recently, I think it was Leanne Newell who we had on that long ago, was talking about how we're into that phase now of companies reinvesting in product. you remember, Graham, she mentioned the fact that there was a lot of investment around 2020, 21 during COVID, but now that product is due to be refreshed, whether it's the laptop itself, whether it's what goes with it. So actually you're starting to see a lot of interest now because companies are refreshing, and they're refreshing in something better because they've gone, well, actually we can see the benefit of that product, but actually we want something a little bit better than what we had last time.
Yeah. Niamh, any comments on that?
Yeah, I agree. Like, what's the saying? Buy cheap, buy twice. And like that, I do agree. There was an absolute rush a couple of years ago to just get your hands on whatever you could get that will do the job for now. And I think, given that most places now, a lot of places are hot desking. They're hybrid, they're hot desking. You need your products to be able to stand a bit of wear and tear. And the one, as you were talking, actually, the one thing that kept popping into my mind are footrests. Like, the amount of places I go to where the footrests have cracked, they're broken, they're snapped, bits have gone missing, and they are relatively usually the cheaper ones, but they haven't stood the test of time at all. And then I'm going in and I'm recommending replacing them. They're plastic. You're looking at the sustainability feature now is massive for a lot of companies. They want something that is made sustainably if possible, but will also last and is not being thrown out. I have seen footrests break after 4 or 5 weeks because they just aren't the right product for the environment that they're in, which is hybrid and hot desking, and people are moving them around. Different people are using them. This stuff has to be, even especially chairs, has to be able to withstand the use that it's supposed to be designed for.
It's really interesting. Right, there's a couple of things I can come back with a little bit of frivolity on this. One is, have you ever seen anyone using a writing slope as a footrest?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
folks,
and monitor stands as footrests. I've seen as well. Yeah.
Oh, Stephen, you must love it. Stephen's company sell writing slopes as well as footrests, and
using them the wrong way round.
Yeah, you see people using them the wrong way around must be fun. But also, I mean, a footrest is a really interesting kind of product as well, because the amount of people that will use a footrest when they don't need a footrest, or which could actually cause more harm than good, or they actually never adjust their footrest from where it is, because in order to do so, you have to get on hands and knees under the desk and do all sorts. And some of them are actually got very, very stiff, like, mechanisms on them and whatever. And it's kind of, it's actually impossible to do it, adjust them easily. And so they never, ever get adjusted. Do you see that a lot as well?
Yeah, or a lot of people don't know. Like, I've gone into places and went, oh, you know what, that's actually a little bit too high for you. Hang on. And I've gone on my hands and knees, very undignified, but we do it, under the desk, twisting it around, put it back. And they had absolutely no idea that you could change the height of it, or you could change the angle of it, or you could loosen it so it could move a little bit instead of being rigid. They just arrive at the desk, there's the footrest, and they use it as it is. And it's just, they just don't know. They just don't know that they can.
What can we do to, like, bridge that gap? Because I still think in the supply chain of things, there's still a little bit of a gap there in terms of that, somehow making that education bit when stuff goes in a little bit more fun, a little bit more interactive. I mean, I'd love to do days in offices where I go, like, come on everybody, we're gonna find out how your equipment works today. Do you know what I mean? And, like, get everybody actually playing with stuff, because it really seems to me still one of the biggest problems is you have the assessment piece and then supply, and the stuff goes in, and a good assessor will do good education when they're there about, this is what this will do, this is and some of it will get taken in, but given people's neurodiversity, for example, a lot of it might not get retained. And it needs to happen again when the stuff is delivered and installed or whatever. And it almost then needs to happen again afterwards at a point just to make sure that people have really got this, because it's kind of like there's no kind of reinforced learning going on, which really kind of embeds this is what this stuff does, and you can adjust this stuff, and it's fine, and you can make yourself comfortable, right? Let's throw some ideas around. What could we do better there?
I mean, for me, is this a natural space for our old friend AI? And is it, in video content, is this something that, we can make, whether it's fun videos or little things we can do to encourage people? Maybe people find it difficult, because if you think, a lot of the products that we're talking about generally come with written instructions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people find them, difficult. I think you've got neurodiversity there, Graham, that you mentioned. I think people try and make the print as small as possible so people can't read it, and they just go, oh, forget it, I'll get on with it. So I think it's more inclusive, potentially, instructions, which doesn't mean it has to be written on paper and bigger print. It has to be another way of accessing material that tells you how to adjust things. And I think the traditional form of you rummage inside the cardboard box and this piece of A4 paper comes out in 4 different languages, it isn't drawing people in. They're literally going, yeah, whatever, I'll crack on with it, or I won't crack on with it, and I'll be having something, whether it's a seat, whether it's a footrest at the wrong height, and creating more problems. So it's that engagement piece, isn't it, around how do I get people interested in finding that information and putting it in a format that draws them in and wants them to go and refer to it.
I think that makes sense. Have information in different formats, different ways, for different people with different kind of learning styles and whatever, and attention spans, etc. That makes sense. I really do. I don't know that necessarily putting them on a company interweb, would be the right way to do it, though. I just, don't know whether people will like find it there or whatever if you do that.
I mean, Graham, something we do, which is on a more basic product, is on a laptop stand, is we've put the QR code on the product itself. So someone with a smartphone goes and, looks at the QR code, and that opens it up. So maybe that's another way, as you say, getting away from those paper instructions and portals. Actually, put it every product that's produced some sort of QR code that takes you into a set of sort of online tuition, maybe, just so it's more, you can't lose it. I can't find it on the company's, internet site. Can I put it on the product? So again, just things like that, that's sort of making it a little bit more accessible, I guess. But I think a lot of it is breaking down the fear. There's just fear about, and we've spoken on this numerous times, especially with the chair at a hot desk, is the fear of doing something to it, of breaking it, of damaging it. There's always that, oh, I'll just sit on it, I'll just crack on with it for the day. But actually, it's creating lots of issues. Should we
just not do like motivational days at businesses where like we go in and we like, alongside like motivational speaking and whatever, we have fun time with ergonomics? I don't know.
Well, I can tell you something I did last year, actually, for Health and Safety Week. So I had a request from a client they wanted to do something slightly different for Health and Safety Week, hot desk and environment. And they're like, we don't really want you to go around to everybody because people are kind of coming in and out on different days. So actually what we'd love to do is they set up a demo workstation in the canteen. And they said, we're going to tell everyone that you're going to be there with all the equipment that we have. And if anyone wants to learn how to use it, just pop over to you. And I was there for the 2 hours, so 12:30 to 2:30, and I was run off my feet.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, this is going to be really quiet. This is going to be a nice handy 2 hours. Because they had, one of the things this company has is a really, really brilliant chair. It's a fantastic chair, but it's completely non-intuitive to use. Like, even when I first met it, I had to kind of go off for a few minutes and find the instructions, find what all the levers did. It's not intuitive. Most people can figure the up and down.
Yeah.
And that's it. And it has everything else. It has your tension, the seat depth, the angle. I mean, it's really, really good. People were afraid to touch it. I don't want to disturb it for the next person, And I'm like, but you're the next person. So, disturb it. 2 hours, I just had a desk set up. I had my little sign. We made kind of a few little fun signs to let people know where I was. And people came in, had their lunch, and once they're finished, came over to me and they were like, oh my God, I know the seat's supposed to do this. How do I do this? How do I do this? So we actually spent a few minutes with each person showing them. And there was other things there like footrests, but it was really focused on the chair. And it was great. I was so busy for the 2 hours. And the feedback was great. And it was something really, really simple. I wasn't sure it was going to work. I was like, look, we'll give it a go. Happy to give it a try. And it was brilliant.
I love
we had
this
a laugh.
idea.
It was
I love
very
it.
informal. Like we were having a laugh as we were doing it. We were having a coffee. It was all very, very informal. There was no reports after it. There was no chatting to managers about it. It was very, very loose and informal. And it was really good fun. It was a good 2 hours.
So actually, it's a little bit going against what I was saying about, you know, QR codes and AI. Actually, it's the other, it's going back to what it was. It's people. It's actually getting people to go into businesses and talk to people about it. And I think what was really interesting there, Niamh, what you said was that you'd got a selection of all the products in the business. I think there's then on an onus on the business to make sure there's consistency in terms of product. Because can you imagine how difficult that would have been to you if there'd been, I don't know, let's pick a basic product, pick a footrest, an example. If there'd been 8 or 9 variations, how much longer that would have taken and how difficult that would be if the company had honed in on, say, 1 or 2. So actually, it's a bit of a nod back to the customers just to say, look, be consistent with what you're buying, put more of the same product in, give everyone the same product, but with a lot of adjustability. And therefore, it's easier then to help us manage the sort of the range of products and manage your usage of it if we've got a small range. So I think that's really important, not to just, and it goes back to what we're saying about buying things online and loads of things flying in left, right and centre. Get that consistency of product, and it's easier then to get everyone trained on a small range of products and bringing in someone like yourself to go and teach everyone.
We just should caveat that by saying, clearly, none of us in this room believe that you should limit, when it comes to ergonomics, that you should limit to a product for each person. Because if someone has a particular condition, a particular set of needs, they are a particular height, weight, size, whatever, they may need bespoke products. And I'm sorry, A&D people out there, you're going to hate us for saying this because it will make your room look messy. But you know what? That's because people are messy. Go back to my favorite word. And if you expect an office to look tidy, you shouldn't put people in it. There we go.
But you know what I meant, Graham, don't you? In terms of it's a bit more consistency. You're going to always have those sort of extremities, but it's where you've got people in
it's an argument. It's an argument for buying better and buying more adjustable. It's definitely an argument for that, because if you limit adjustability, if you limit robustness, if you limit quality, then you'll probably end up with a lot of stuff that just doesn't work for lots of people. So the more adjustable, it actually makes products more inclusive.
Yes.
When they've got more adjustability to them. Because they work for more people automatically outside the box without it having to be having to be sort of like bespoke for one particular person. There's always room for that bespoking, but it makes a product more inclusive if it works for everybody. And that's an interesting point on the inclusivity side of things. Have you ever looked at things like Braille and stuff like that for products, or Stephen?
As a bit, do you know what? Again, I don't think we have, but again, it's something that maybe needs looked into potentially, because almost as an organisation, how many people are we not reaching with our product because we need to do something that's a little bit more inclusive? So I think it's a very fair point as far as that's concerned, Graham. But certainly something that the more people you can get inclusive to your product, the better. So good point.
And actually, these days it can be a very little thing, like just having a bit of Braille writing that says the instructions are here, right? Or there is a QR code under your thumb. And then there's a QR code, and then they can put their phone over it, and they get their screen reader to read the rest of it. And the rest of it, you don't have to have reams and reams of Braille either these days. People with visual impairments are quite clued up tech wise. a lot of the time because they have to be, but it's just the entry points so that they know where they're going to look for the information. So I think that's an interesting thing. What's the one thing that you would like to see happen within the sort of ergonomic sector, Niamh? What would you like to see kind of change from where we're at the moment?
I can only speak for where I'm based. So mostly I'm based in Ireland. So we're fairly similar to you guys in the UK. What I would actually like to see is more investment in the baseline ergonomic services.
Yep.
So I would like to see us going in more and more on a proactive level, doing the workshops, doing the baseline entry, onboarding DSE assessments, whether they're on Teams or whether they're on person. But I find there's still a big gap between the companies that will do basic DSE assessments every 2 years, every 18 months, whatever it needs to be on everybody. All the onboarders get it. We've moved office, we'll get one. And the companies who do absolutely nothing, self-assessment, which self-assessment, it doesn't count. People are busy. Tick, tick, yes, I'm fine. Let's move on. So people who do self-assessment DSE services, and then a year later, you have to bring us in for bigger, more expensive, more in-depth assessments that realistically could be avoided if you'd done the baseline ones right in the first place. So I would definitely like a more proactive, and I work with all kinds of companies, and I do see the companies who are more proactive have less. I might be called in once or twice a year to do a more in-depth ergonomic assessment with somebody who has maybe an issue completely unrelated to work, but it's just impacting them in work, and they want to try and help them, versus companies who don't do a whole lot of proactive assessments, who maybe just do self-assessments. I could be in there once a month, and I'm talking companies with really brilliant chairs, brilliant desks, great screens. On paper, should have a really healthy, productive workforce, but I wouldn't be in there as much if they did.
Right.
And if they just, and I've said it to them, please do the baseline stuff right.
I've got it. We're going to start a campaign.
Okay.
Okay. So in the UK at the moment, the HMRC, bless their souls, are changing the way that we do self-assessment. Okay. And if you earn over a certain amount, you've got to go to MTD. You know what that stands for? Making tax digital. It means that you've got to do your tax online with particular software, and it means that you've got to upload your accounts on a quarterly basis.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah? So that they're constantly seeing a picture of where your business is, not just you making it up at the end of the year. So we're going to start MAD, MAD, right, which is making assessments deliver. And that's going to be great, right? So it's going to be a more proactive delivery of assessments. And I feel like if companies could get on board with the MAD process, that would be marvelous. Yeah. We could have T-shirts that say MAD for it. Yeah. Everyone in Manchester would go for that.
Can we get matching bucket hats as well to go with that?
Mad for it, man. Yeah.
But you know what? Great. There was a really great point Niamh made there, which I think really echoes through to what we're trying to say here: is having a great desk, having a great chair, having a great product is only really the start of the process. It's actually using that correctly. So companies might think, well, I've gone and bought this chair and it costs £1,200, it costs £1,500, I've got this great sit stat, I've got all this. Unless people are, and it ties back to what we said at the start, unless people are shown how to use it and how to interact with it, you're wasting your money. You've got to, it's only a very small part. You've got to get the training and the education and the workshop that needed. If more companies got onto that, as you say, the big problem we've probably got, which sounds like in Ireland and the same in the UK, there's too much reactive and not enough proactive. And I think that's the missing piece, is moving more people from that reactive side to the proactive side. That's the real shift you've got to get, is companies moving from one stance to the other.
Absolutely. During COVID, we had, or just after, we had a fairly famous singer-songwriter on here. I don't know whether you remember, Stephen, who had appeared on Britain's Got Talent, who, with everybody's cooking something, right? She was cooking crumbles. In fact, she got one in the oven. Do you like one? And she created a song as well about moving in the office. Yeah, you remember it, etc. We're not suggesting that, but what we are suggesting is, if you've been watching this today and you would like at some point in 2026 for Niamh, Stephen, and myself to come to your office and motivate your people in your office about their ergonomics and get them to know their kit and get them to start using it properly and start moving properly and start really being proactive in their health and well-being, we're totally up for that.
Yeah,
we were totally up for that. When you could have a day like Niamh said, but with all three of us, and we'll do the whole day, because we can take it in 2-hour stints, and we'll show people how to use the equipment, and we'll get them motivated as well, right? And we'll get them thinking, because this is the other thing. I've been talking about this a lot on LinkedIn this week. We need to start people thinking again. All of this AI coming in, one of the problems with it is that people have stopped using this. Yeah. Right. So we need to start people. We need to educate people. We need to start them thinking again about, what am I doing here? What am I doing with my body? Why am I working in this particular way? Or why am I just turning up every morning and eating 6 sausage rolls from the bakery? Drinking 12 gallons of coffee and not moving about all day. And that's just me. Right. Yeah. We will be back in 2 weeks' time. It's been great having you here today, Niamh. And that clip of you talking passionately about what you did in the office, that's definitely going to go out there sometime this week as well.
100%.
Great.
Thank you for watching, you people out there. Don't just sit on it now like your chair that you never move. Actually get on the phone, connect with Niamh, connect with us, do something about it, get things going in your office, and we will be back to talk about this more in 2 weeks' time. Until then, from Niamh, Stephen, and myself, bye for now.
Bye, guys.
Bye.